Dave Slaughter. We have him on the list, but I know that this has already been Parents for Kids' Rights. Dave, if you want to speak, and then after that, I'm going to call on, I'm looking at people that have different organizational backgrounds here to call as we're winding up, to give those organizations a moment to speak. So go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Chairman, and good afternoon, honorable representatives. My name is David James Slaughter, and I am affiliated with Georgia Parents for Kids' Rights and also the Americans for Equal Share Parenting. But my experience predates all of this. On 2 occasions, I've lost family members to the current court system. The first time was in the state of Pennsylvania. At age 7, I lost my mother, Alice Slaughter. The second time was in the state of Texas. I lost my 2 sons, Andrew Slaughter, age 12, and Daniel Slaughter, age 9. I am not here to speak about losing my sons, however. I'm here as a grown child to speak about losing my mother to the family court system. In the late 1970s, early 1980s, my mother and father went through divorce proceedings in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. For over 3 years, their custody battle lingered on, which is an eternity for a child close to 7 years of age. On the orders of the judge, despite having 2 living parents, I was placed into foster care by the Delaware County Family and Youth Services. My brother, Chuck Slaughter, was also placed into foster care by the same organization, but in a different home than me. For over 3 years, I lived apart from my mother and father and 3 older sisters and 1 older brother. For 3 years, I was completely alone from my family. To be candid, my father came out to visit me on some weekends, but I only got to see my mother once at the very beginning. And because my sisters, brother, and father told me that my mother was, quote, dangerous, unquote, I showed fear towards the very woman who gave birth to me and nursed me with her breast and gave me baths and changed my diapers. That would be the last time I saw my mother as a child, somewhere around 1979 or 1980. It has been 40 years now, so my exact memories are clouded by time. When I reached adulthood, there was a service offered by the Social Security Administration where they would forward a written letter one time from a parent to a child using the adult child's last known place of employment. My mother used the service to write me and gave me her address and telephone number. Having grown up and being curious about the mother I was denied access to, I gave her a call. In those days, payphones were still a common occurrence, so I used a random payphone to call her just in case she was still dangerous, as my other family members led me to believe. My mother and I spoke for about 20 minutes on the telephone. My recollection of the call with her was that she was concerned about me and wanted to reunite. Sadly, the brainwashing of my other family members stuck, and I made no commitment to make a follow-up call. And so there was no further communication with me and her while she was still living. Fast forward another 10 years, and I was informed that my mother fell down and hit her head and had a brain aneurysm. She was given 6 months to live. I lived far away from her at this point, so decided to fly out to visit her in person once a month in Pennsylvania for a whole weekend. The first time I flew out to see her at her nursing home, I did not recognize her at first. She had changed so much physically that I had to double check her name on her wrist tag to be sure she was my mother. She was gaunt, skin and bone. She was sleeping, and as soon as I learned, she would, and as I soon learned, she would sleep approximately 95% of the time I visited. She received nourishment through a bottle of liquid food attached to an IV on her wrist. Her nails were overgrown, and as she made fists, her long, sharp nails pressed into her skin and caused bleeding. She had something I can only describe as a fuzz in her mouth, and I asked the nursing staff to remove the fuzz and cut her nails. In addition to this, the staff had chosen to leave a bin of dirty laundry right next to her bed, which I got to smell, and they had changed the station of my mother's radio from the music she enjoyed to something they wanted instead. Quite simply, the nursing home staff disregarded my mother as a human being, but we're not here to talk about that. After taking care of my mother's immediate needs the best I could, I brought up a chair to her bedside, and on the Saturday and Sunday I was visiting her, I either read a book next to her bedside or answered emails on a laptop. When my mom did wake up, the very first word she said to me, and this was the very last word she ever said to me, was sorry. That was also the very, yeah, that was the last word she said to me. Can you imagine the shame I felt in having my mother shut out of my life and out of my children's lives, her grandchildren? I did the best I could to show her pictures of my sons, Andrew and Daniel, in their young ages, but I could not tell if my mom enjoyed seeing her grandchildren or if she felt regret at having never met them. I will never know the answer to this. Very often in contentious custody battles, one parent and or siblings will do everything they can to shut the other targeted parent out of the child's lives. This will happen no matter what you legislate. You can't control this. But what you can control is if both parents have 50-50 access to the children, then the targeted parent can at least show the child or children that they are not the ugly monsters that they are quite often painted out to be. My story happened in Pennsylvania, so I don't have any skin in the game here in Georgia. But as an adult, I'm seeing this happening all too frequently right here in my home state of Georgia, which has been my home for the last 12 years. Please help these children in Georgia avoid the pain and suffering that I went through as a child and pass legislation guaranteeing 50-50 shared parenting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slaughter.